Well, thank you.
Guess it's the place.
All right, so my name is Steve, KEØHLC. I've been licensed since 2003. I've been running Aries since 2004. I became a ham for emergency communications only. I want to thank George, WB0IIS, and Roger. I used to work for Monsanto. That was the first club I joined, and they got me hook, line, and sinkered into it. And then I joined the SLSRC after that. So I've been involved with SLSRC probably, oh God, 2005, 2006 probably. But Aries is pretty much running St. Louis County and St. Louis City now. We got ARL to approve to merge the two together. So that's why we call ourselves St. Louis Metro Aries. We are St. Louis Metro Skywarn because we actually do the same for Skywarn. We do both city and county. So I'm going to let Jackie take over. He's going to talk to the importance of Skywarn and what we would like to see from it.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Jack Mann, KEØHLC, and Bob, W4GDX, is going to present the latter half of the meeting. So, as Steve was talking about, basically we're just a group of, just like everybody else here in the room, amateur radio operators. We're an all-volunteer group that handle the net control responsibilities for the Skywarn nets when we do activate. So again, as Steve mentioned, we are part of the St. Louis Metro Aries group. And so essentially what we do is when a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning is issued for either St. Louis County and or St. Louis City, we will activate our net. We're currently activating on 146910. And so again, appreciate you guys hosting us and letting us use your computer. It's been fantastic. I can hit it from Wentzville just fine, so we're doing good there. So again, one of the things that we do is we will take reports of severe weather or severe weather-related damage from trained weather spotters. So to be a trained weather spotter means that you have taken a class from the National Weather Service office here in St. Louis. I do know that for the last year or so, ever since COVID, they have been doing some online training. So you can maybe kind of look out there and see if you can find some online training. I believe that they are accepting that as sufficient Skywarn training. So when we get a report of either damage or severe weather, we will relay that to the National Weather Service office here in St. Louis, and that information also gets passed along to the St. Louis County Office of Emergency Management. So the types of things that we would like folks to report. And I guess one of the biggest reasons why I'm kind of up here talking to you all, or me and Bob are going to be talking to you all, is we are really looking for, I guess, more spotters in our area. The last few storms that we've had, I think we actually had one this past week. We had one a few weeks ago that were pretty intense windstorms. A lot of damage came out of that. Unfortunately, what ended up happening is we didn't get a lot of reports, hardly any reports at all, via amateur radio. And I believe you had said that you guys have like 30 people that joined in on your nets. We have probably, about 20-ish here in the room. Any help that you all can provide us would be a great benefit, not only to the county, but also to the Office of Emergency Management, to the National Weather Service. And we'll kind of explain that here in just a minute. But again, one of the big things that I'd like to report is wall clouds. So a wall cloud essentially is this little feature down here underneath a rotating thunderstorm. So you have a wall cloud here. A tornado would likely form kind of right in that area there. So wall clouds are very, very important to relay to the National Weather Service because it tells them what is actually going on inside of that storm, or what's going on with that storm. Obviously, another big thing to report would be funnel clouds. So again, you kind of notice here kind of the differentiation between a tornado and a funnel cloud. is you don't have anything touching the ground, or at this particular point, we have trees blocking the view here. You cannot see anything touching the ground. You would report that as a funnel cloud. And then obviously over here, we have a tornado where the funnel is all the way down to the ground. You have ground debris being lofted. That would be a tornado. The thing that we would like you to report is hail. That's obviously a lot of what we see around here is hail and wind damage. So hail, anything bigger than an inch, or basically a quarter. So if you have a quarter on hand and you have hail falling in your backyard, obviously when it's safe to do so, maybe go outside and pick one of those up and compare it to a quarter. And if you have that larger than a quarter, you need to report that to us. The National Weather Service would definitely need that information. Any size hail really is what we were looking for. Pea-sized hail, things of that nature. The big thing is it lets the National Weather Service and the meteorologists know what's going on inside of that storm. So that way they can either get new warnings out, rescind warnings if things are falling below severe limits, things of that nature. When we talk about damage, this is a really good example. We kind of have a lot going on here. So we obviously have a pole, utility pole kind of snapped in half here. We have quite a bit of tree damage. So I think one of these, there might be some shingles missing. Looks like there's some shingles missing here. So again, any sort of damage that you happen to come across is definitely valuable information as well. The National Weather Service would definitely like to know what that storm actually did while it was on the ground. Flooding, so again, in parts of the area here, flooding is a pretty big concern. Low-lying areas, creeks. So if you do happen to come across flooding, so flash flooding or even flooded roadways, that would definitely be something to relay to the Skywarn. And again, the National Weather Service would like to hear that. Also, the Office of Emergency Management, they would like to know this information as well. That way, they can get a hold of whoever they need to get a hold of to go out there and either take care of the situation, assess the damage if needed. So again, all key valuable information. So what we're looking for as far as not reporting, so things that may not be warranted for a report on our Skywarn. So it's things like heavy rain unless it's accompanied by flooding. So in other words, if a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued, they are going to issue that because the rainfall amount is in excess of about 1 inch an hour. So they kind of already know and are already expecting that, yes, we're going to have a torrential downpour with this storm. So they really don't need to know that unless you come across, similar to that picture, a flooded roadway, standing water, things of that nature. Lightning, so obviously with the severe thunderstorm, as the name implies, you're going to have quite a bit of lightning with that storm. You don't need to report lightning unless it's accompanied by damage. So if lightning hits a tree, takes out a tree branch falls down onto a house, you would definitely need to report that. If lightning hits a house is on fire, we would definitely like to know. Obviously, first responders would want to know that information first. So, definitely call it in, call 911, let them know that, hey, I just saw lightning hit a house is now on fire. Report that, and then if you can, report that to us as well. So that way the National Weather Service is aware and Office of Emergency Management. Dark clouds with no discernible rotation. So a lot of times, especially with the storms that we've had here recently, big giant cloud, what they call a shelf cloud, looks very, very ominous, very, very scary. May have little features kind of hanging down from it. May look like tornadoes all the way down, up and down the line. That is not necessarily anything to report, so we don't need that information. Obviously, if you have a dark cloud that's got rotation, I would report that. That could be a sign that a wall cloud is imminent, funnel cloud is imminent. Definitely report that. Information that does not have a location that was given. So if you make a report on our net, please give the nearest cross street that you can. So if you're kind of in the middle of a residential neighborhood, give the nearest major cross street that you can. So for example, when I was living in Hazelwood, I would always use Howard Shell and Lynn Haven. That was the closest cross street. Where I'm at now in Winsville, I always use Highway 61 and Highway P. That's the nearest major cross street that I have. I can hear sirens at my location. Tornado sirens are, obviously they sound a little scary. We don't need to know that information. So if a tornado warning has been issued, St. Louis County will fire off the sirens. We don't need to know that information. So we already it's already implied that those are going to go off. But I definitely implore you all to heed the sirens and get down to your basement as soon as you can. Don't ignore them, and don't rely on them either. Make sure you have multiple ways to get warnings when we have severe weather coming through. Sirens are not real reliable. A lot of people can't hear them at the location. If it's 2 a.m., you're in a deep sleep, you may not hear it. If you have a weather radio, NOAA weather radio, things like that, if you have that program to capture tornado warnings, which I believe is on by default, that tone will definitely wake you up. Bob, I think it's up to you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Bob Gale. I'm one of the assistant emergency coordinators working in the St. Louis metro areas with Steve and the crew. One of the things I'm sure you've heard, and I don't know how well you understand, we work in a cooperative agreement with the Office of Emergency Management, both St. Louis County and St. Louis City. Primarily St. Louis County. We also have memorandums of understanding with the National Weather Service and other organizations where we help them. So when we're out there on the Skywarn net, we're primarily doing so for the county. But obviously, the county is off from a standpoint of getting the notice to people out in the community. The county, the only control they have is the emails they send out and the warning sirens for tornadoes. That's all controlled by the county. The National Weather Service, on the other hand, triggers the weather alert radios and sends out bulletins. So it's sort of a mixed bag between the two organizations. We give our information directly to the National Weather Service, but the Office of Emergency Management is on the pipeline, so to speak. So, as we said, Skywarn and Train Spotters Contributor Program, it's a key role. I don't know, a lot of us became ham radio operators to talk to other people. But I think a lot of us, we have deep down inside the desire to do good for the public. That's one thing about amateur radio, when all else fails. Well, when all else fails, we're not out there just talking to ourselves. We're talking to other hams to benefit the community in general. A weather radio cannot see with a storm. If you go look at the radar domes out there at Weldon Springs, if you ever take a ride out there on take over 40 over into St. Charles, you see these big weather radar domes, and they're scanning the horizon. But they're not scanning the ground level. they're up there and they're looking at things that are basically above tree level. And that's all they can see. You know, especially when you go further out. How do they know if something is actually on the ground? From people like us. People like us giving reports and then passing it on to them. Yesterday we had a severe thunderstorm warning. And when they first came out with a warning, they were very clear in the blurb that they put out. It was radar indicated only. Radar indicated, we have a problem. How do they know how big of a problem? They rely on ham radio operators and other emergency management people to feed that information into them.
Bob,
Yes.
yesterday I drove through that storm, coming in Highway 40 and 141. There was nothing in that storm that would qualify as a reportable condition.
And it could very well be.
So that means that the Weather Service got no knowledge and Skywarn got no activity because there was nothing reportable.
You're absolutely right. Now, if you go back a little bit over a month ago, and I'd have to look at my calendar to know the exact date, but I know we had a meeting of the QCWA. And for those of you who've been hams longer than 25 years, that's Quarter Century Wireless Association. I'm a member. Although I don't really qualify specifically for that, because if they had a half century, I'd be eligible for that one. Not that I'm dating myself. But the night before that meeting, we had a storm come through. And during that storm, we only had one report that we gave to the National Weather Service, and that was from one of our hams who was on the weather net. And I'll show you the chat page in a little bit. He sort of self-reported to the National Weather Service a problem that he saw. And it wasn't major. The next morning, I'm driving from Creve Coeur down to Kirkwood, and I'm going by, it looked like a disaster zone in Kirkwood. There were trees down. There were limbs in the street. But we didn't get, okay, maybe there are no hams in that area of town. It's possible. All I'm asking is, if you're a ham, if you live in an area and a storm comes through, look out we don't want you going outside, but look out your window. If you see trees coming down, let us know, because that's information the National Weather Service would like to know it, and even if they don't know it that night, they want to know about it after the fact, because they actually send people out there to look at what went down, how big was it, and they can use that to further refine what they're looking at on radar. Because they look at, they have, the data from the radar. We're just looking for people to report. Information can be the difference between a tornado warning issued 15 minutes before a storm hits and 45 minutes. If you see hail, it could be pea size, could be the infamous marble size, and I always laugh about it because Jim Cramper, when he was the head of the National Weather Service program, he used to vow that he would haunt people if they ever used the word marble. Because what size is a marble? There are no specific sizes. So they want you to describe it by coins. But if they know that there's hail in a storm, they then look at their radar and they say, okay, we're getting hail. This is what it looks like on the radar scope. That could be generating some steam, and it could turn into a tornado. And that could lead specifically to a tornado warning, giving people some extra knowledge, extra warning, get down into the basements. It's very important to report. The role amateur radio plays. We said reports received via amateur radio are sent directly to the National Weather Service office. And I'm going to show you a chat page in a little bit, where it's ideal when we're up on there, one person will be on the radio taking reports, a second person scribes. If someone's giving me the report over the radio, I'm jotting some notes. The other person is typing it in to the chat page. They hit enter, and immediately the National Weather Service, the Office of Emergency Management, all the various people know about it, including all the media, all the law enforcement, all the fire departments. It's like a who's who of emergency management when you look at the list of people who are on the system. Reports made via website, social media, apps. In the middle of a storm, that's going to be the secondary or third thing that the National Weather Service looks at, if they look at it that night at all. During severe weather, infrastructure is at risk of being impacted, obviously. Power loss, cell towers down, the loss of internet connections. Any app-based or web-based reporting applications, they might not work. And if they don't work, we have phone numbers that go directly into the National Weather Service. So we can call them directly on lines that they will pick up. Amateur radio has the capability to still transmit and receive the reports over the air when all else fails. If a high impact event is anticipated, we potentially can station operators at the Emergency Operations Center, St. Louis County. It's over on Hannah Road, Oberlander Park or something, or Oberdorfer,
Yeah.
something like that.
Ollendorf.
Ollendorf. Okay. I can never remember the name. But they have the facility. It's all on generated power in the event of an emergency. We have our own room with radio equipment. So we have full operating capability there. This is the NWS chat page. And this is actually from the storm yesterday, I think it was. It was actually, yeah, it was yesterday, but it was, I don't know, looking at times. I think this was actually before it actually hit us. It was hitting St. Charles. So what happens is this page is made up of parts. On the left margin is the St. Louis chat group, because all chat pages have a group. And you look, you've got up here, emergency management, SEMA duty officer, RALA, rural FD, some ham radio operators, SEMA, Lincoln County, KMOV meteorologist, and down, all the way down. Those are buddies in the group. On the right side, this is actually, here are the people who are actually in the group at any given time. you have people from DOT, emergency management, and if you scroll down through, it's a who's who of who's going to be on the TV and radio giving weather reports in the next few minutes, because all of them are on there getting these reports. This section here is the actual chat page. At 3:05 p.m., the National Weather Service, the BOT, the National Weather Service issues severe thunderstorm warning for St. Charles, Missouri till 3:30 p.m. And this is actually the warning area. It's the infamous polygon. So they actually, and if you ever get if you're not privy to the map and you get it on your phone, it'll actually give you the coordinates of the corners of the polygon so that you can figure out where it's at, if you're that good with coordinates. But this is the warning area for St. Charles. And obviously that's a big, St. Charles is a big county, but this is the very southern corner. But they issue the warning for all of St. Charles County. They don't discern between southern St. Charles County. Same thing, you have St. Louis County. If we get a storm down here in Oakville, and let's say it's a tornado warning. Tornado warning requires the county to activate the siren system. And sirens are only designed for outdoor people to hear outdoors. If you're indoors, the weather radio will go off. And they're both on the same thing. But if the warning is for specifically Oakville, you're going to hear the siren up in Florissant, Spanish Lake, Riverview, way in the northern part of St. Louis County. And you'll hear it here in Creve Coeur. It's not that the county it's not that they don't have the ability to set off specific sirens, because they do. They don't want to take a chance, because you never know what's going to happen with a tornado. And they don't want to be in a situation where they set off the tornado warning for the far southern part of St. Louis County, and the thing takes off and goes through Tillis Park or into Clayton, and they didn't give people warning. They'd rather warn the whole county than just one section. But once the warning comes out, well then at 3:15, emergency management, Chris Newbro, not planning on it, but that's what I was thinking, thanks for the info. And then National Weather Service warned storm near Augusta is weakened, though another core may be trying to build further northeast. And they're giving other information about other things down here that might not even be on the screen. But as information comes in, we see it. Now, this is the chat page for everyone in this area. There's also a ham chat page, and that was designed specifically for the Skywarn volunteers who are on the radio and on the internet looking at things. So like if I'm on the radio and Jackie, say, is scribing for me, I can communicate with him by text using the ham chat. I don't have to worry about getting on my phone and calling him, or using text messaging, or using a secondary radio frequency. all you gotta do is type a message. But if we have to send information to the National Weather Service, we go back to this page, type it in down here, and they immediately get it. What can you do to help? When a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning is issued, tune into the net, 14691. And yes, we definitely appreciate SLSRC allowing us to use the repeater during an emergency. If you observe anything reportable, let us know. Like Jackie said, we don't need to know about heavy rain. We don't need to know about lightning. We do need to know about the severe things. Severe wind damage. You know, the 20-year-old tree that is now on the ground, or hail that's been pounding the side of your house, or the highway outside your house is flooded and traffic can't get through. Spread the word to other amateur radio operators in St. Louis metro area that are trained spotters to do the same. We encourage people to get trained. Now, having said that, if you come on, we don't ask for your spotter ID anymore. If you see a tree come down, if you see hail, all we ask for is your name, your location, and we'll take care of it. We trust the integrity of ham radio operators to not be lying to us, so to speak. We trust you. And things like hail, things like flooding, it's things that you don't need to go through a trained spotter class to know what they are. Questions and comments for any of us? Yes.
When I went through the training in St. Peter's about 3 years ago, I was disappointed that the guy never even spoke ham radio, but he did talk about his app called MPing. And I have used MPing numerous times, and I know that seems to be working. Is it still being utilized, or somehow is that fitting?
Yeah, NPing is still being utilized every now and then on the NWS chat page. If it's like a pretty severe report like tornado, funnel cloud, whatever, that will show up on NWS chat. But again, that's if we're in a situation where we've got an F3, F4, EF4 tornado on the ground, it's going to take out infrastructure and NPing won't work. So again, it's useful to the NWS for sure. I actually do use that a lot. If it's something like fog or something like that, if I've got really dense fog out in my area, I'll use that and report that. But during severe weather, I would definitely use the Skywarn net if you can, and then if for any reason you're not able to raise us or you can't hit the repeater, definitely use that.
And there's Skywarn nets in other counties. We're just St. Louis County and St. Louis City. There is a net that's on, I don't remember what frequency it's on. Do you know, Steve?
No, I don't remember what frequency for St. Charles.
I think it's 33.
145.33?
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, I am disappointed in the class that I went to that they didn't mention anything about ham radio. And I did talk to the instructor from National Weather Service, and he said, that's a good idea, and well, then COVID hit, and
They haven't gone back to any training classes as of yet.
Yeah, I understand, but anybody can download the MPing
Yep.
app at the App Store and put it on their phone.
Yeah.
question over here.
Well, I've heard ever since Jim retired that the lady that took his spot told the amateur radio operators to stay out of there.
That's correct.
Yep.
Well,
Because
they
somebody-
don't,
Somebody had made her mad enough to say, no more operators in here, or whatever. I don't know what the full story was.
well, I don't know, and a lot of it's politics, I'm sure. We do not have an amateur radio permanent station at the National Weather Service office. We have, in the past, set up temporary stations running coax through the door and putting an antenna outside.
There was a permanent station there.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
When Jim Cramper was there. Because
And-
he wanted the amateur radio operators to report to him.
I understand.
And then his successor came from a weather service somewhere else and that did not,
Springfield.
And,
that did not have them. And way I understood, somebody made her mad here and said, nope, nobody's coming in this building,
well,
period.
we can't change what's happened. We work under the auspices of the St. Louis County Office of Emergency Management, which is a branch of St. Louis County Police. We work in a cooperative agreement with the National Weather Service, and I will guarantee you that the National Weather Service meteorologists who are on duty definitely appreciate and look for reports from us.
Because there's been quite a few times that I've called down there on their direct line for whatever, it's 441 something, and called them directly and told them what was going on up in Lincoln County, because I live north of Troy.
Yeah.
And we also have a call sign up there that's close to what the Weather Service has. We have WX0MO, not WX0STL, which is the Weather Service. So we've used that, and people called us and, oh, the Weather Service is back on. I said, no, we're not the Weather Service.
Yeah.
So there's two calls out there, and a friend of mine is the one that's the trustee of that call center for Lincoln County up in the northeast portion of the state.
Bob, and let me clarify a couple of things. I was one of the operators out there with the National Weather Service. I think Don was there from time to time. It started with an antenna being damaged. The MIC, meteorologist in charge, and I don't know her name, came in from either, I was told Springfield, I don't know if it was Missouri or Illinois, and neither one of those weather bureaus, weather stations used ham radio. It came to, we don't have the budget to get the antenna replaced. And that was the start of the discontinuation of the WX0STL out there. And that was about 3 years ago. And we did not have, we lost Ron Przybylski several years ago. He passed away. Jim Cramper retired. There's still two, at least there were, the last time I was out there were two meteorologists. Scott, he retired. He was sitting right next to me. He's a ham. And Jim King is not. He's the one that took Jim Cramper's place. No, he's the one that took Ron Przybylski's place. I don't know who took Jim Cramper's place. So we lost two people that were ham operators that supported it. And the new MIC, meteorologist in charge, came from a place that did not use ham radio. So all of a sudden, they did not have the budget to replace the antenna.
I appreciate the information, Cliff. I knew about a lot of it. The only thing I can say to that is, if we continue the path that we're on, where storm after storm after storm, Skywarn does not get any reports over the radio, then we're not showing any value to the National Weather Service for what we do.
Skywarn right now is the only contact with the Weather Service with ham radio. I mean, the only ham radio contact with Weather Service. And regardless of how you report it.
Right.
Well, I
It
understand.
starts with a ham radio.
I understand.
Oklahoma City, I guess the National Weather Service out of Oklahoma City, OUN, they are very much in tune with the ham radio community out there. Any severe weather threat, they are 100% out there with the ham radio community. But again, that shouldn't dissuade us from
No.
from trying to participate with the
No.
National Weather Service.
I spoke to Jim Cramper after this happened, and he'd already retired. And he said, unfortunately, he was very disappointed that the weather, that the weather station, the radio station there being discontinued. And he said, unfortunately, it depends on each individual weather station as to what they want to do.
And the more we give them reports,
Absolutely.
the better they're gonna view amateur radio.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, the gentleman that took Cramper's place, his name's Kevin.
Kevin, that's right, yeah. Kevin.
He's all for us.
Yes,
He wanted us back, but again, the meteorologist in charge
did not.
because
Yeah.
she did not want to spend any money towards,
Matter of fact,
That
several years ago,
equipment.
I sent Kevin study guides. He never got his license though because,
because of COVID. But there is only one meteorologist at the National Weather Service there that is a licensed amateur radio operator. All the other ones have retired or
Yeah.
moved on. There's
there were
only one left.
Three at one time, I think.
Yeah, there's three. There's only one left now.
There was a question over here.
Not a question, statement. In St. Charles County, I'm a member of the ECA up there, the Emergency Communications Association. It has a real strong tie-in with the Emergency Operations Center. Up there, the guideline is any ham can call into the ECA and they will transmit it to the National Weather Service. So they've got the same
Yep.
context you do, but everything funnels through the ECA. So I think it's a
Well,
good,
we
strong
are
Yeah.
the arm of the Emergency Operations Center for St. Louis
St. Louis
County.
County, right.
Right.
And it's the same thing with the ECA up there.
Yeah.
They've got the same capabilities.
Yeah.
We can dispatch fire, we can dispatch the sirens, the tornadoes and everything inside of our room at the Emergency Operations Center.
Yeah.
But it's a very strong relationship, but the rule up there is call the ECA.
Yeah.
So, I have a two-part question statement. And first off, thank you guys for being here.
Yep.
We appreciate you sharing the knowledge and the information. The first part of my statement relates to what happened during the Good Friday tornado,
Oh,
11 years ago. I had come home from heart surgery 4 days before that tornado hit. A house a quarter mile from my house was destroyed. I lived right near where Steve used to live. And ham radio was the only thing that caused me to move to the basement that night. And it was reports that I heard about activity around the Hollywood casino. That report, as my memory serves me, that report did not fall within our reportable conditions. It was something like, it's really gusty over here on the highway, something of that nature, but it was enough to cause me to say, that's pretty dang close, I need to take action. So I moved to the basement. I got there just at the basement of the steps in time to hear the freight train go by. So ham radio made my life a whole lot sweeter. But since then, when I've listened to Skywarn, it's crickets. There's nothing out there. And that's exactly what you're saying tonight. I also had the misfortune or good fortune, as you might want to see it, to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma one night when a tornado came through. I had taken my handy-talkie with me. I was in a hotel, so I'm monitoring the local Skywarn for there. And the buzz was accelerating. It didn't necessarily have to be, and I'm going to use the term reportable offenses. It didn't have to be a reportable condition. There was knowledge being transferred around about where that storm front was at, where that massive water wave was coming through, enough to keep everybody knowledgeable. Even though I didn't know the area, I could pull my phone up and Google what intersections they were talking about and feel comfortable. And I got so uncomfortable that I actually, the buddy of mine and I were with, the hotel moved us down to the most worst place in the hotel, the lobby with all the glass. So as soon as I'm listening to my radio, I picked up and moved and went over to the elevator shaft, which of course, is a pretty strong part of the building. 7 people followed me because they saw that I had a radio and I knew what I was doing. So I guess what I'm saying is we gotta do something to get our buzz,
Yep.
our storm buzz
Yeah.
up. You know, if we could have talked yesterday about where that massive water wave was coming up Highway 40 or going around 270, it's knowledge. It-
Well,
it's-
now, when
it's
the-
not- it's
when the
understandable that you don't want chatter on their chatter.
550?
Because then you can miss the important stuff.
When the storm came through St. Louis County yesterday, it started out in the Chesterfield area, and I was literally reading from the chat where it was, where it was gonna be heading, by what time. I was trying to give people as much information as we had.
Were you transmitting that out on the net?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Literally from the National Weather Service report. Okay?
Great, that's the kind of chatter we need to have.
But the one thing is, I'm not a meteorologist.
No.
I look at that and I see a lot of colored stuff.
Yeah.
I do know that that polygon is the area that they have, in their eyes, that's the problem area.
Right.
And I'll make sure when it's in St. Louis County that I let people know it's in, they might have heard the warning go off for St. Louis County, but I let them know where it's at. But I'm not going to give them prognostications of where it's headed unless that's part of the National Weather Service feed that I'm looking at.
And by you saying where it's at,
Yep.
allows an intelligent person to make their decision about their personal action.
Sure.
Whereas what I've heard, and I'll be the first to admit to you, I no longer turn on the Skywarn net. To me, it's been useless. Again, I'm not criticizing you all at all. You're doing everything you can. But I suspect I'm not alone in the amateur community. In that, I got so used to turning it on and hearing nothing that I don't even bother to turn a radio on unless it's actively hailing at my house. And then I made a mistake the last time I tried that.
Tying into what Paul said, I had the advantage of being out at the weather service when there was bad weather for the last, I think, 7 years, 6 years. I heard Madison County, Macoupin County, St. Charles County, Franklin County, all of them. Madison and Macoupin County had a net control. They had, I'm gonna use Don, Bill, Rebecca, and Jim.
St. Clair County too.
St. Clair County, I forgot about that.
ones.
They had designated Skywarn people. Are you north of whatever, they give their location. Each one of them would give individual reports to net control. We would listen to them. And they would call us when there was something, so I don't know if you guys are doing that or not. In other words, Jackie, you live in Hazelwood, and somebody lives in Webster Grove, or somebody lives in West County, South. Do you have people in each location?
We have people who live all throughout the area.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
we
are they
have-
active?
We have a team of 9 people.
Okay, good.
And again, they're spread from, I'm in Maryland Heights, I get hit most of the freaking time now, almost every storm.
Yeah.
So we got people in South County, we got Gary, he lives up on Florissant. So we do have people, known locations.
I think what Paul
But
was
again,
saying,
it could be a block away.
well, what we heard over there, we would hear them regularly to check in.
Yeah.
The net control, Madison
Well,
County, Macoupin
it's,
County.
it's a fine line.
Yeah, it is.
On
Too much and not
check-ins.
enough.
Yeah.
Because, and we've had this issue where you get people checking in, giving you literally reports of non-severe, and while they're talking, giving that report, there could be something very dangerous happening in another area of the county that the person can't get through on the radio because of the other person.
Well, Bob, the way, and I get them mixed up, Madison and Macoupin, they're right next to each other anyway. They would say, they'd give a call sign, anything to report? Nope. You have anything to report? Nope. You have anything to, they did it every 10 minutes or something like that. So it was something to hear that everything was okay where these people were.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and
Yeah,
maybe we
and
can look into that.
we've tried, we're trying to start that, but again, we know who's on. As long as you have internet, we can actually see all of our group people that are online when they,
can't see us.
sign in to send.
If I go to.
No, because you don't have access to
Yeah.
that.
No.
If
But
I go
again,
to the
those are the
ham
assigned net control
Where are your eyes
operators.
and ears?
Yeah,
I look at the ham chat and I know who's on there.
Yeah,
Well, another thing too, the last time that I was out there, and I don't remember when it was, and I think there was three of us out there. Mike Bean, Silent Key was one of them.
Yep.
We're sitting there with the radios, and right across, I forget who was sitting, we'd write a report, hand it to them. There's a paid meteorologist over here on Facebook, there's a paid meteorologist up here on Twitter, there's a paid meteorologist up here on the phone. We're sitting there, volunteers doing nothing. That was the last time I was out there, so I don't know.
yeah.
it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Still that
It's still
same
that.
eye.
Yeah.
Each one has their own, because you get ports from MPing, Facebook, all of those you get, but they're not amateur radio operators, they're just regular people.
No.
And that's where they get a lot of their information
So
from.
Skywarn is the only one that's keeping ham radio alive at the Weather Bureau.
Well, because like in the one that happened yesterday, I literally had National Weather Service send a message to us that I answered, wanting to know if we're seeing anything out there. And I let them know that, no, we have not received
Yeah,
any
because
reports.
they asked up in Maryland Heights, because that's where the actual, the gust front came through. I literally, 2 blocks away, I had a nice tree just ripped down power lines, and, 4 blocks were without power. But I didn't know that because I still had power. Until I went out and took a tour after the rain and all that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I sent that to National Weather Service. He goes, oh, yeah, that was on Channel 2 News. That tree that went through somebody's house, I think it was, what was there, Angela Huddy on Channel 2. Literally pulled up in their truck and started, doing the news right from the end of the block. And I'm like going, I already beat you there. So,
Yeah.
Question.
Last time I took the class was about 5 months ago, and one of the things they kept stressing was use your phone, take video, take pictures, and send that through Facebook or Twitter. That-
Yeah, that's
They have
fine.
people monitoring that during storms.
yeah, they do. And again, that's why there's paid meteorologists that actually sit and watch the different
Yeah, they do.
out there.
But the thing of it is too is, when a storm comes through and knocks out power, knocks out cell towers, knocks out internet, they're not gonna be getting that stuff. And, all of us as amateur radio operators, we can go in our car, hook up our radio in a car, and we can transmit to either Bob, myself, whoever's on the net, and we can relay that up to
Can
the.
someone tell me when the last tornado came through this area?
No, 2013.
Last year, not in this county, but
Nope,
I'm talking about St. Louis County, metro area.
2013, I think.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
It was the weekend of the Dayton Ham Fest, or the weekend before or after.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And if another one comes through, we need to be ready to be able to give that information to the National Weather Service. We can't be sitting on our hands.
No.
And I think a lot of it too, like some of the other outlying counties, they almost have, I won't call them storm chasers, but they do. They have dedicated people that will go out into a specific location, sit there and wait for something to hit them, and if something hits them, they report that out.
Yeah.
As of right now, that's something we're not doing. We're exploring doing that, but as of right now, it's something we're not actively doing.
Yeah, we're not sending anybody, but we would love for people to actually, kind of, tell us that, hey, during severe weather, I'm here, I'll be on the radio, I can listen. Because again, we could take, check-ins on the 911, so we know exactly if somebody's out there listening, we know where you're at.
Yeah.
Even though that this warning's already out, the warning can only hit X locations. It usually doesn't cover the whole county, but again, once we know where the storm is going, if we already know that we have somebody in that or around that area, that's the person we're gonna go to. And again, once the storm goes by, if you wanna go out and, take a walk, take a drive, see if you see any damage. Because again, you'll be the first ones to report it, pretty much, unless power is out, then Ameren's gonna know first. And then Ameren's already related to the National Weather Service that, you know, power was out at this area. So again, the Ameren and the National Weather Service do work together to get that information.
Bill, you had something?
Well, one of the things I'm hearing is if you would do with your 9 individuals check-ins when you activate your net, then people like Paul hear that there's activity and you're gonna start getting more people listening and participating. So I think it might be a good idea to have your individuals doing check-ins. Yep, I'm by the radio, I'll let you know if something's going on. And it has to be short, like you said, because you don't want 8 people saying, yeah, I'm here at the radio, yeah, I'm here at the radio. I was, but it blew away because you weren't listening.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. So,
but I think they'll help.
again, we have to, you
get
have to
other
listen
people
to
involved.
when the National Weather Service issues the warnings, they tell you, it's gonna hit here and this is where it's going. So we don't need, if it's not in, you know, it's up in Florida, we don't need somebody from Oakville saying, I'm on the radio. Well, the storm right now is not gonna
But
go
if you
anywhere near
have
that.
people doing that, you have
Cool.
other people know that there's activity.
Right,
And you're gonna get
Yeah.
more people listening
right,
and participating.
right.
Bob, all I heard the other day, whatever other day was, I don't remember, was you checking it, you doing, this is WB0AAF, please, if you have anything to report, please call WB0AAF.
Would have been better if I had said, please, please give us some
It
reports.
was like a recording, I'm not making fun, but it was, I was listening for something like Paul was, you know.
I know.
And again, we're not getting any, so that's all we
I
can
know.
do is wait and say, hey, we're still here, net control is waiting. Any
Brendan,
reports
you
of
had a
severe weather?
question?
Yeah, actually, kind of a comment. 2 or 3 weeks ago in Baldwin, we had a power outage, and it took me a 10-minute drive to find internet. Because I needed to download something for work the following morning. It took me 10 minutes to find internet. All of Baldwin was out, but I turned my radio on and nothing was being reported. It wasn't anything serious. The storm already blown past. There's nothing to report, but there was no traffic.
But somewhere a
So I
tree
turned
went
my
down and
upstairs.
took out the power.
Yeah.
5 hours.
Likely.
I was out for 16 hours.
Well, one other question. How long does the net stay up post-storm?
We stay up until the National Weather Service cancels cancels the alert or it expires. So like-
After the fact, if we go out and see traffic, see damage, how do we contact you and get that back to you?
You can do it right to the National Weather Service.
How?
They
I'm
have,
supposedly a trained spotter, but I have no knowledge in the world of how to get data.
you're a trained spotter?
Yes.
You got a phone number when you were trained. I'm
Okay.
not gonna
Yeah.
give it out here, but you received a phone number.
Yeah.
We don't know if that phone number still works, because
I'm
we
sure
get,
it does.
most of the stuff takes by internet now.
Actually, it's not a question, it's a bit of a comment. My background is actually in climatology. And did some research on tornado statistics. And one of the things, if people like, well, the storm's already over, what's the point of putting out any reports? But damage reports are actually used for research to determine what kind of storm it was. And the National Climatic Data Center puts out a monthly storm report to put all the details and damage reports of every storm in the whole country.
Yeah.
So
Those meteorologists at the National Weather Service, after a storm goes through, they're out there
Staying on.
looking at storm damage.
Yep. And deciding it's an EF1 or an EF5.
Yes. Yeah.
Bob, does the phone number end in 7497?
Sounds about right.
180.
Probably.
Okay,
That sounds about
still
right.
good.
Any other questions?
Can I tell a quick story? This is about 10 years ago out there. We were sitting out there behind the radios, and there was it's funny, there were 5 or 6 meteorologists watching the big screen TVs for a tornado in Oklahoma, somewhere in Oklahoma. And they were watching the Weather Channel. And whoever was reporting on the Weather Channel said, and a tornado has touched down, blah, blah, blah. And one of the meteorologists says, you dummy, it's not a tornado until it touches the ground, it's a funnel cloud. And they all died laughing. They were critiquing
Each other.
the Weather Channel.
Yeah, and then I guess for those that don't know, the Hurricane Watch Net. So I think what is it, Hurricane Ida? We got a new hurricane out there in the Gulf. Supposed to hit somewhere in Louisiana on Sunday afternoon, I think.
Yeah.
So the Hurricane Watch Net is, I think they're planning on activating sometime on Saturday, sometime tomorrow. So they definitely. They're kind of like, I guess, the bigger brother to what we are.
Well, I'll take exception to that. And the reason I take exception to that is I have a WA4 call because I lived in Pensacola, Florida for 15 years in the middle of it all.
Yep.
And I actually went through 2 hurricanes, through the eye of them, and 1 tropical storm. And there is very little local amateur radio traffic during a hurricane coming in. Everyone knows it. You know, it's not like a tornado around here where it sneaks up on you. When a hurricane, you know, I've been out there, you know, where, I had a map about this big that I got from work. And it had Pensacola in the center with rings, 100 miles, 500 miles, 1,000 miles, and you literally plotted where the hurricane center was. And if you didn't know a hurricane was coming in, you need to move out of the area. That's just the way it was. Now, hurricanes will spawn tornadoes, but there's no rhyme or reason as to where they pop up. Tornadoes pop up from a hurricane the same way tornadoes pop up from a thunderstorm around here. First you have to have the thunderstorm, then you have the tornado. While down there, first you have to have the hurricane, then the tornado pops up. But if there's a hurricane coming through, the last thing you need to be is up there looking. You should be in your, I would say in your basement, but people don't have basements.
Your basement's gonna flood anyway.
And I have something else, and I'll shut up. HWN.org is their website. They have a great website with graphics, and if you don't have HF, or if you do have HF, they're 20 and 40 meters. Only HF, not VHF. But it's great, the graphics on their website are great.
And if anybody needs the information, we have a printed brochure with literally all the information that was talked about tonight. So we'll have these up there. Anybody can take one of these.
But you don't have any When All Else Fails buildings?
No, I do not.
How many of those do I have now?
Probably got a lot. At least 15.
Probably.
Going on, I wish, every year.
We appreciate your inviting us to talk tonight.
And again, we can use everybody's help if you got ideas. We're open to take ideas. I'm gonna talk to you in a few, because you've got to come up with some great ideas. You have. And we're gonna try to implement them as best we can.
You know me, Steve.
I know.
I'm a very mild-mannered, unspoken person.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have a raffle, correct?